Welcome to the XLNT Show.
This is
going to be the most awesome podcast for all your fans because you guys are just, Danny's going to keep looking at me like he's like a child that said the wrong thing and is going to get scolded. It's like, what did I say? It wasn't good, smart enough.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The XLNT Show. My name is Parker Ament.
My name is Danny Ferrari.
And we are here with Samuel
Waze.
Vogel.
Vogel.
I've never heard a butchering of my name. So just in so many ways. A lot to unpack there. My name is Sam. I produce music and DJ under the pseudonym Jauz.
He does his own intro better.
I know, that was
And
pretty
you have
professional.
countless hits. You've been around for a very long time. You're one of our actual real friends.
Yeah.
I kind of.
I think people are going to get the picture pretty quickly.
Yeah, we
here.
actually know each other, kind of. We have a good story about that.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you so much for coming, dude. Really appreciate it. We
I'm
love
happy
you.
to be here.
Yes, I know it took a while to get you here, but that's obvious because you are a very busy man. Family
Yeah,
life.
I'm way more busy than Afrojack and Dylan Francis.
Yeah, that's what we had to do. It's like, bro,
Way
we got
more busy.
Dylan Francis and Afrojack on. You telling me we can't get fucking you, bro? What's going on, dude?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Not that this is why it
I know.
it happened like this, but I will say that something that I feel very strongly about, and not, again, this doesn't necessarily apply to you guys, but I'm happy that it all transpired this way. It's kind of like, I guess I'll use my little brother as an example. Because Nate, who is like 4 years younger than me, when the Jauz project started kind of like happening, he was going to community college at Santa Monica, and he was into photography, and he wanted to start shooting shows. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm not going to fucking help you.
Yeah.
And he was like, what? And I was like, well, like, I've been in this long enough now, which at that point was like fucking 6 months,
Right.
that I had really like been doing shit. And I
Yeah.
was like, I know what's going to happen if I try to introduce you to people as my little brother and just try to get you a job. Like, you're going to have no credibility whatsoever, and no one's going to give a fuck. And worst comes to worst, they're just going to not even give you the time of day because you only got this introduction
Right.
because you're my little brother, right?
Yeah.
So what I did is I got him a show at Avalon, which way back in the day, for you young kids out there,
Yep.
who also live in Southern California, because most kids probably don't even know what the
Yeah.
Avalon is. Whatever. That was like the club for dance music from like 2010 to 2014, let's
Yep.
call it. And I was really close with the girl who ran all the shows there, Carly. And I was like, all right, like, I'll get you a show. I'll have Carly let you go shoot photos for free. And that's all I'm going to do for you. Make your connections, do your
Yeah.
job, like, figure it out. You're not allowed to tell anyone that you're my little brother.
Nice.
And and he did that.
Yeah.
And fast forward to now, he toured full-time with Joyryde. He toured full-time with Ghastly. He toured full-time with Slander. Now he's touring with Chris Lake.
That's awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah, he does great for himself. But it took like, probably 6 months to a year before anyone he ever like worked with or met. There's still people in music to this day who like meet me or we're like talking and whatever, and I say something about Nate and they're like, "That's your little brother?" Because we also like look nothing alike.
Yeah.
If
That's
you ask me.
awesome, though.
Yeah. So my point of all that is I'm glad that like
Yeah.
I didn't do the podcast first, and then that was like your attempt to springboard other people on, because like having Afrojack and Dylan is way fucking cooler than me anyways.
I don't know about that. I mean,
Dude, this is going to be a sick episode.
yeah.
This is gonna be
I
really
think
dope.
I get what you're saying.
Prepare to be let down.
I get what you're saying, because it's like you're also giving us a chance to be like, all right, like, we're friends, whatever, before this, right?
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
do your thing, stand on your own, and then
Yeah.
which isn't like, I don't think. I feel like some people might be like, oh, like that don't get it, that aren't necessarily doing things yet in the industry or doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
They don't understand that how important it is for you to make your own
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah. I mean,
splash.
okay, I'll use another example, like personally, because I think that this is something that's really important to because like I mean I'm sure you guys know, and anyone who's listening to this podcast probably either has heard this before or feels it, which is that the only way to make it in the music industry is connections.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, all of these talentless hacks, me being one of them,
Yeah.
are just, you know, successful because of who we know.
Right.
And I love telling the story because not that many people know, because of you'll understand after I tell the story, but it's also like it couldn't be more like it's literally a story that happened to me. So it's like a very like it's an irrefutable thing.
Right.
Once I tell this story for people to be like, well, no, that's like, and it's like, no, like I am a relatively successful person in music, and I specifically avoided the, if you want to call it like nepotism or whatever it is. But to make a long story short, one of my closest relatives on my mom's side, one of my cousins, has been in the music industry since he was like 15. He started it as he was like a beat writer for MTV back in the day when MTV was popping. He started working at Atlantic, worked his way all the way up to like a VP position. And then right when I started the Jauz project, he went to, oh, what the fuck were they called back in the day? Windish Agency, which is the agency that existed before they merged with Paradigm, which then became Wasserman.
Okay.
But Windish back in the day was like Dylan Francis, Diplo, Flume, like all of that whole kind of world. They were like one of the really big indie booking agencies. And so, you know, and I think maybe even when Brandon was at Atlantic, he would always, you know, text me and be like, hey, like, how can I help you in music? Like, you know, I have all these connections, whatever, like, send me what you're working on, like, whatever. And there was like a small period of time where like, not with Brandon, but there were like a couple other like, actually this is, fuck, I'm already doing it. I do this on every podcast where I just
go, baby.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
But I'll bring this up because you know Asaf really well.
Yeah.
My mom knew this dude through like one of her closest friends where she used to work. His best friend used to be Asaf's tour manager.
Oh, okay.
And this was like,
Interesting.
I think this was like 2013 maybe. And like I was going through Icon, or I had just graduated, and like, you know, I was trying to really get shit going. And my mom was like, hey, like I met this guy, his best friend is Borgore's tour manager, whatever. And I like had her send him music, and like I like started texting the guy, and I was like, okay, this is my in.
Right.
But because it was a connection that was made by my fucking mom,
Right.
which like, to be fair, that's not nepo shit. Like that's
No, I
just
mean,
that's coincidence, right?
Anybody has somebody that knows somebody, whatever.
But
like,
it doesn't matter.
yeah,
It's still because of the way that connection was made, it just wasn't genuine,
Sure.
right? Like they didn't really give me the time of day, you know? Ironically, fast forward to like when my career first started taking off, it was that I went on a bus tour with Borgore, and the tour manager was that same dude.
Right.
And the first day of the bus tour, I go up to him and I'm like, do you know that I am this kid? And like his mind was blown because I had gotten there in a completely different way.
Right.
That was legit.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's go back to my cousin Brandon. So he's always asking me if he can help, if he can help, if he can help. And I kept saying no, and I kept saying no, and I kept saying no. Finally, it gets to the point where I'm about to go on that bus tour with Asaf. So we decide that it's time to get a booking agent. And so we're taking meetings with, you know, a bunch of different agencies, and one of them happens to be with Brandon and Tom Windish from the Windish agency. And Brandon, you know, obviously beforehand is like, bro, like, come to us, like, you're my family, we'll take care of you, I'll make sure that, you know, no bullshit happens, whatever. And I won't say that the specific reason that I didn't end up at Windish is because Brandon was there, but it was a big factor. Like, I didn't want for any reason there to be any sort of thing that someone could dig up and be like, oh, well, this is this guy's cousin. And guess what? He works at the record agency or the booking agency that Sam is a part of. And so obviously that's the only reason he ever got any level of success. Right?
Yeah.
I like wanted to avoid that shit like the plague.
Yeah.
And probably did myself a disservice by not
making it harder for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my point of telling that whole story is like, and actually both of those stories, especially together, should paint a pretty clear picture,
Right.
which is it's actually really normally not who you know. It's just fucking work your ass off and make something cool, and eventually someone might fucking notice.
Yeah. Can I say something about you that I don't think a lot of people know about you, because they don't really get a lot of chance to see you on a bunch of podcasts. You've been on a couple, but like,
Yeah.
you're and one thing I really respect about you is you're very hard work oriented. Like, you're one of the hardest working people I've ever worked with in the industry.
Yeah.
And one thing you told me too, I thought that was really cool when we all started working together, was I think it was like on a weekend or something, and we had plans to meet the next day, and you're like, oh, like, you called me, like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm like, I'm eating or something, or I forgot what it was, and you're like, oh, you're not working? I was like, well, yeah, I mean, because I work really hard. I work all the time, but it was the one time I like wasn't working on, like, you're like, you should be working on music right now, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like, and I was like, fuck, Sam. Like, but I
It
also
probably wasn't a weekend.
No, it was no. I mean, it's not that you're like this work Nazi.
I'm a dick.
Yeah, no, but it made me like, I'm saying this in a positive way. It made me really respect you as like
I appreciate it.
You really, really do care about, and you were saying it in a way of caring about me. Like, hey, I know what your goals are.
Yeah,
and you should be taking every opportunity you can to reach those goals. And I don't think a lot of people know that about you. And I think that's
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you are a hardworking person.
I think there's probably a lot of people out there. I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people out there that, or like maybe this is just the comments that I see, but they're like, I don't know. It's weird because like on one side I am like a nerd and like a I can't think of the word. Not like workhorse sounds weird, but like you said, like
you work a lot. You have a lot of output.
Yeah, but also at the same time, like I try so hard to like not have my music reflect that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like I don't want to be like the producer's producer.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I want my music to kind of like be able to be listened to by a larger group of people.
Yeah.
So like that kind of work ethic, I think, doesn't necessarily reflect in the music where they'd be like, oh, dude, like his sound design and like his this and that is like so intricate and whatever. Like he's whatever. Like there was a point in time in my life where I would have appreciated that.
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, like that's. And I fucking hate saying it like this because, like, it really makes me sound like an old, jaded fuck. But, like, to put it, succinctly, like, or bluntly, I guess would be the better word, like, it doesn't pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and also, like, it's not even just that, but, like, it also, like, it doesn't give you the satisfaction, at least for me, that I used to think it would.
Right.
Like having the respect of your peers,
right,
and those that you look up to or whatever. And the thing that I really learned was that, like when I was going through Icon and all I'd listen to, like I would drive to Icon listening to like Excision Shambhala mixes and shit. And like I would go in and I would try to like replicate the people that I was looking up to. And I would never make any music that I was happy with. And the dude that was my mentor at Icon for the longest time, he would literally, it was like he was talking to a brick wall. I felt so bad. But he was like, the reason that you don't like any of this is because you're trying to sound like someone else and they're already them.
Right.
So you're never going to beat them at their own game. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. Like, I want to sound like them, but like me. Right. And he's like, no, you want to sound like them. And when I finally stopped doing that and started making just whatever the fuck was happening, all of those things that I was looking for, like the recognition from the people that I looked up to, all started to happen from music that sounded nothing like them.
Yeah.
Because the real secret is like you know, and now it's happened to me for years where kids like, you know, they make bass house or they make whatever and they're like, oh, like, you know, you would love this, and it's like, no, like I wouldn't,
Right.
because I'm sick of that, just
Yeah.
like these people are sick of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like you hear something fresh and cool, and that's when you're like, oh fuck, that's sick, right? But I guess to get back to the original point, like in kind of finding my own quote unquote sound, if you even want to call it that, more than like a genre or anything like that, like it was really learning how to kind of turn off that like kind of elitist part
Yeah.
of my brain and just be like, make bangers that, you know, anyone could hear at a show or a club or whatever, and just like have that visceral reaction to.
Yeah.
Right. And in the process of making that kind of music, I don't think that like people would hear my music and be like, oh yeah, he must be really dedicated to his craft or whatever.
Right.
They're probably just like, you know, that's why I get the, oh, he's just some fucking bro who knows people and like whatever. And it's like, I'll wear that. That's fine. Like, I don't really fucking care.
So wait,
Scoreboard, bitch.
So wait, at Icon, when you were like hitting the wall, and your mentor's like, dude, you gotta come up with something that is genuine to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, what was the turn? Were you just messing around and you just started making something four on the floor, or like what was that turn? Like,
there
was it purposeful?
There was a couple of like, I think it was like a couple of things that all kind of culminated at the same time. Primarily, it was going through the process at Icon, and especially going through one of the classes that you do at the end, which is called the Art of Flow, that Danny knows about. I'm sure he's probably talked to you about it.
Yeah, I've heard. I don't know a lot about Icon, but I've definitely heard about that class.
Basically, just to make it really simple and straightforward, the Art of Flow is kind of like it teaches you how to be a creative person, how to think like a creative person, which like you would think if you're a creative person, you kind of already know that, but like there's ways to be better about it. And it's almost kind of like therapy in a way.
Interesting.
Which I don't even know if I have the right to say that because I've never done therapy. So
It is.
Okay, cool.
There's a yeah. Look at me. Yeah, I've definitely done therapy. Still do. It's a way of getting you as an artist to connect at a deeper level with the art you're trying to create.
And the reason that I kind of say I feel like it's like therapy is because like it's just kind of like hard truths that you have to face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just kind of like break down the like facade of what it means to be an artist and like hear what it really is for real. And like what that really equated to for me was like I just had to be honest with myself about the intentions that I had for making music like my whole life, all the way up through Icon, like what my mentor was trying to tell me that whole time that I wouldn't listen to. And I kind of had to look in the mirror and be like, okay, like he's right, they're all right, I'm wrong. Like I've been looking at this the wrong way. And the easiest way I can describe what it is when you kind of like get in the flow or whatever is you just stop giving a fuck. You're not you're not thinking about, you know, where is this song, like whose set would this song fit in, like would people who like dubstep like this song, would people who like house music like this song, like you're not worried about that shit. You're just like, I'm going to puke onto the canvas that is Ableton or Logic or whatever you fucking use, and I'm going to make whatever comes out, and I'm not going to like judge it, and then whatever happens. And so that was like the big part of it. But then also being in the environment that I was in, living with the dudes that I was living with that listened to music that wasn't the same as what I listened to, and having those external influences definitely played a large role in it too. And so I just kind of like instinctually was like, okay, like I've always been this like really aggressive, heavy dubstep centric whatever dude. And then, you know, one of my roommates was like super into like kind of more like experimental melodic music like bonobo and that kind of stuff, and one dude was into like super techie, like house music, and like that's where a lot of my influence from like people like Chris Lorenzo and the UK side of things came from. And so I just kind of took what I knew and then took those kind of external influences and kind of just smushed them together.
What's up, guys? Want to take a quick break from the video to tell you about our newest drops-only serum pack, Wook Bass. If you are looking to make release-ready dubstep and Wook Bass like Subtronics, Tape B, Boogie T, this pack is for you. Stop scrolling through endless preset libraries that are just sub-tier and start using the best Wook serum presets in the industry. Also, P.S., there's absolutely no chords or plucks, just drop-ready basses for your next production. Now let's get back into the video.
For people that don't know, if you went to Icon, and this is what I'm curious about for you, for the time that you went, because you had, you know, Prototype before you.
Yeah.
And then you had Mac J.
Yep.
And then you had you, right? You were the next poster boy.
Yeah.
And Nightmare at the same time. This is my
Tyler
opinion.
Tyler was like a year or two after me, and technically Hayden Kazo was before me.
True, right. Kazo
but
the
like
same time.
he didn't necessarily like, pop off or anything. But
did that bother? Like, not bother you, but like, did you? Because you were still. Because I remember what was really cool is what I always really respected about you is I was like, here's the guy that's at the top of his game right now. He's the most like talked about person. And he's still coming to Icon and he's talking to kids because you do care about the people don't know this, but you do care about the younger producer. You give us advice all the time.
Yeah.
Like really good, solid advice too, like really sound. And you've obviously already given a bunch of good advice, but you cared about that. And I always thought that was really cool that you were hanging around versus other people, not judging them, but you were there.
yeah.
But I always wonder if that was like, did you feel like, because especially for Icon, you know, at that time, you were such a success story to them. And did you ever feel weird kind of being like the poster boy?
This doesn't really necessarily have to do with what you're asking about, but I think it's worth mentioning to
Talk
people.
about Icon,
Yeah.
your experience.
Well, all I really wanted to say is that I think that, and maybe it's not the same anymore, but around that time that you were talking about, because it wasn't just me. It was like me and then Slander and Nightmare.
Yes.
Kazo, Sullivan King now.
Right. He was just starting, though, to pop off. Keaton is now at his highest point, I think, ever.
I think that's safe to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's killing.
But, you know, all of us there was that real Icon moment, right?
There was the crew of people that were doing well.
And
It was
I think this kind of stigma got perpetuated that was like, if you go to Icon, you're guaranteed to find success.
Yes, it totally was that.
And like, there's no situation in the history of forever that would ever be a case. It was just right place, right time, right group of people, right mentality, right work ethic, whatever. And we all also were all around each other, so all of our positive qualities kind of rubbed off on one another.
So you guys were you guys also like hanging out? Like, were you hanging out with those dudes at the same time and like helping each other?
So like Hayden Kazo was one of the first people I met at Icon before I even enrolled. He was like, I was on a tour there to check out the school, and he happened to be working there at the time and like whatever. So he was around a lot when I was going to school there. Mackenzie was around a lot when I was going to school there. Max Prototype was around a lot when I was going to school. And then when I graduated, but before things had really taken off, or maybe even a little bit after that too, like you said, I would go to school still all the fucking time, primarily because, shocker, even when things are going really well for an artist at the beginning, you still are fucking broke. So I didn't have a studio.
Yeah.
So I was 100% going to use their studios as much as I possibly.
Studio,
fuck yeah. Are you kidding? And like, so I would be around a lot, and there was like one kind of like metric that I would look for in all of those kids to try to figure out who was going to be that next one, if there was going to be. And I knew it was going to be Tyler, Nightmare, because he was the only person that was at school as much as I was.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids in a class?
When I was going, there was like 10 kids to a class.
Wow.
Then probably around when Danny was there, it was closer to like 20.
Yeah, 20 to 30 sometimes
Yeah.
even. Yeah.
So 1 out of 20.
No. It's more like 1 out of
200 maybe.
something like that.
I don't
Okay.
know any kids. I mean, I don't want to diss on anybody that's in my class because I still talk to a lot of them, and a lot of them are doing music.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I can't say that any of them are. I don't want to sound like an asshole saying this, but whatever. I can't say that any of them are per se known in the scene.
Yeah, but I
Like-
think that's a good point though, because like I think that's something else that like up and coming, kids that would watch this podcast, like I think
Yeah.
that's something that is like important for them to understand is like, just because you want to be a DJ doesn't mean that's where you're gonna end up.
Yeah.
But if you're a perfect fucking example, dude.
yeah.
Like, if you do music because you love it, like there are so many different ways to have a career that you're passionate about.
yeah.
It's like in the music industry, there are, actual producers that are just making music. There are, the people that work with artists on tours, whether that's a tour manager, production manager, VJ, lighting designer,
Yeah.
audio engineer, SFX coordinator, whatever. You could be, designing stages. You could be doing this. You could be doing that. There's so many other ways. Or you could be fucking making sample packs.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Doing
And
a YouTube.
educating kids.
Yeah.
Like there's so many facets of like this world that you can become successful in that don't necessarily look like exactly what you imagined. And I can even it's basically what I've been saying about myself. I imagined myself as this fucking dubstep DJ that was going
Right.
to be, Excision 2.0 or whatever, and that's very much not what I ended up being. And once I accepted that that was never going to be my reality, that's when I started seeing success. But you can extrapolate that to like
Yeah.
you. There's a lot of ways to find success, and just because a lot of the kids in your class maybe aren't famous DJs
Sure.
doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't find success in music.
Yes.
Right?
So were you partying a lot when you were at Icon? Was there
Yeah,
like
when you started
shit
getting
going
success-
on? Was it like popping? There was a party every weekend. There's a show.
I mean, when I went to Icon, I was literally like a monk.
Really?
Yeah, like I
I
swore
thought
off.
you were a party animal, dude.
No.
He's a hard worker, bro.
Once I like really realized like what it was I needed to do if I wanted to take music seriously, and I signed up for Icon and I dropped out of school and whatever, I was like, all right, like not chasing chicks, I'm not drinking, not partying. I was still living at college essentially. Like
Oh wow.
for most of my time at Icon, I had a fucking apartment. I wasn't going to give up the lease. I didn't have any fucking money.
Yeah.
So I was commuting like an hour each way, basically.
Whoa.
And so I still technically like, there were a lot of days, like Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, like that I didn't have school, that I could have been out still partying, hanging out with college kids, like doing all that shit. And I was literally like, I'm not going out. I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm not like doing any of the shit that I was doing before. Like, I'm just committed to fucking doing music.
I think one thing about like, because you were talking about like the technical production, and one thing I learned from your production
yeah.
is just like your songwriting is just so good, and the way that you set your songs up with your chords and your melodies, and then the way that you transition parts into each other. It's always just like so smooth, and it's always so simple, and it's minimal. There's always like, you need exactly what you need right there. You don't overproduce shit. Then that's what you kept telling us. You're like, you keep fucking overproducing.
Yeah.
Overcomplicating.
Well, I
shit.
used to do it.
Yeah.
I used to do all of those things. I used to for a long period of time, I almost feel like I've done myself a disservice trying so hard to do the things that you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of my biggest records and the ones that the people seem to like the most are like, there would be a drop and then there would just be like a after the drop
Sick
because
washout.
I couldn't figure out how to get into the
Something cooler.
I couldn't figure out how to like smoothly transition into the next part of the song. And I mean, I don't really know if that's the sauce. I don't know if I need to go back to the impact at the end of drops, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I appreciate you saying that.
You're a very, very good technical producer, just in a different. So, and I know you can sound design too. I mean that, and you can mix, and you know what you're doing. But when it comes to, I think the appreciation of your music is in the actual song itself. Like when I listen to Feel the Volume, like my favorite part is not the drop. Like my favorite part is the melody.
That's so funny because I can't remember who I was talking to not that long ago, but they were like, that melody fucking sucks.
That person's an idiot.
No way, dude.
That person's an idiot.
It's
Yeah, I mean,
it's such a catchy melody.
It is like a newer producer melody. Like I'll give them that. Like there's not a lot of change or variation that happens in it, but it's a very memorable melody.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
I appreciate that. And like every now and then, because like I have so many edits of Feel the Volume that like I don't even barely ever hear that like little organ sound.
Mm-hmm.
But like the other day I was listening to it and like how I structured that song. First off, like, do you know that the original Feel the Volume is like 7 minutes long?
I think you told us that, but this
I did not know
Like
that.
the one on Beatport and shit is like 7 minutes long.
Oh my
you
god.
did
There's
the
like
extended mix.
Dude, it's like there's
That's
like
how
a
such a noob you were.
progressive.
there's like a fucking like 2 minute like it's like not even a drop because like that song is like there's the intro,
Yeah.
like drum intro, then there's like the boop 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 whatever, builds into the first drop, there's a build up into the second halftime drop, then there's like this whole like interlude drop in the middle that's just like the organ sound with like some bass.
So you were making strobe, basically.
kind of low key. Like I was really feeling myself. I was really cooking, you know?
You were feeling the volume, bro.
And like I like listened back to, scrubbed through the whole song the other day. I was like, I would never write a song like this anymore.
Like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Yeah, but people love that record.
That's
I
such
mean,
a great...
at the end of the day, people. I appreciate you saying that, but like, that record did not work because of all of those other parts.
Yeah.
It worked because of the drop and because so many DJs, for whatever reason, that song just fit into so many sets and could be used as a drop in so many edits so easily.
Right.
That's why it worked.
Well, that's where I'm saying is I think, for me personally, is the melody is what gets people knowing what song there is about. I'm saying you have two.
Yeah,
That to me, there's two memorable parts, right? So you have the drop, right, which is you kind of signature sound, the whole like wub bass pitching down shit, right? Like to me. But once you hear the melody, the bam, 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 everybody knows what's coming. And that's what I'm saying is I think that's why that song works so well too. And that's why my favorite part is actually the melody.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I feel like I've talked about this a couple times, but since this is like a, like a producer podcast.
Yeah, we need the views. So can you talk about Feel the Volume more?
I've talked about this a couple times, but it's worth saying again because I just don't know if that many kids like really utilize this part of Ableton enough. But the whole way that song was created was I just like, if I'm in the middle of a song, and I know this has happened to you guys before, and I'm sure it's happened to all of these. Like I did a stream the other day on Twitch, and I was like going through remixes for "Higher for Your Love," and like one of the kids whose song I was listening to was in the chat. I was like talking to him about what I would have done, and it was like the first part of the song and the drop were super cohesive, and then the second part of the song was like a whole different song. And I was like, that's just what you do when you're new to producing. Because, like, you think that every idea is as good as every other idea. And there's no possible scenario where you could ever not have that idea.
Right.
Right? And what you learn to do, or what I learned to do, is, you're in the middle of a song and you come up with a new idea that is probably in the same key and would probably work for that song. But it's not for that song, right? So what I do is, especially if it's MIDI, or even if it's a sample or whatever, you fucking condense it or whatever you have to do, condense the MIDI clip, condense the sample, whatever, and I drag it into a folder in my user library in Ableton so that at any point in time, if I'm stuck on what to do or I'm working on a certain song, I can just go through this whole, like, it's like my own sample pack, basically.
Right.
Where I can be like, oh, fuck, like I had that melody or whatever, or I had that drop sound, or I had this vocal sample, that I thought I was going to use on this song, but it didn't make sense, and now I'm going to use it here. And that's what
That's a really cool idea.
that's what Feel the Volume was. Is like
really?
I was dicking around with some song, and I made the little bell melody that you're talking about, but it didn't. It either didn't work with whatever song I was making,
Or it never got finished.
or it never got finished, or it was just like a little like sketch.
Yeah.
And so I took that melodic loop, like the MIDI of it, dragged it into my Ableton library so that it was like I could just drag it back out and the preset would open and whatever. And then one day I was like dicking around and I made the Feel the Volume drop, like the first 8 bars of it. And I was like, oh man, this is kind of cool. And I was like, but like, I don't really know, like my kryptonite used to be, and it still kind of is, like I could either make a sick drop and I could never find an intro that matched, or I could make a sick intro, and this is normally what would happen or still happens, is make a sick intro and never figure out what the drop is going to be.
Right.
And the only way that I've ever really figured out how to crack that code is I'll end up having something in my user library that I pull in, and that gives me the inspiration to fit it all together. And so I went into my user library, found that little bell thing, dropped it in, and it was just like worked.
Just worked.
And so the whole song came
cool.
together in like 45 minutes.
That's so sick. If you're a producer and you're not using project file remakes to help you get better, what are you doing? Remakes and project files are a great way for producers to hone their skills in song structure, sound design, and mixing and mastering. I know it's helped us out a ton and continues to sharpen our skills every single day. So if you're looking for the most accurate remake project files and a ton of exclusive presets and sounds, then you gotta check out our Patreon. We upload a ton of new content every single month for producers. From custom unreleased sounds and producer interviews to project files, SERUM presets, and racks. And don't forget, every single month you can post your track for feedback. When you join our Patreon, you get access to our entire catalog of sounds since 2018. That's 6 years worth of content, and you get to jump right into it. Go check out the link in the description and find the tier that best suits you. Everything we get from our Patreon, we reinvest back into to get better guests and a lot more tutorials and content for you guys. And one last thing before we go, we just uploaded 2 huge project files that includes 20 Wook style drops in celebration of our brand new pack, Drops Only Wook Edition. There are a ton of drops in there for you guys to open up and start messing around and learning from. And don't forget, all the awesome presets and sounds are included in the folder as well. Thanks for your support, and let's jump back into the video. Does it feel good to know that you invented the FM bass?
Especially considering I made that patch watching like a Chami preset tutorial.
Like, if you really think about it, like, I know Chami did, but like the Jauz wub, right? Which is kind of funny because I always feel like you have to make a shark fin.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, like you make a shark fin LFO shape.
Yeah.
And it always makes me think of you. Like, if I'm going to make a Jauz wub, I have to make a shark fin
Yeah,
LFO
that's
shape.
the one that sounds the best.
That's what works. It's so weird how that works. But
Yeah.
if you think, I know you didn't invent the FM wub, but it was placed. I don't know if you, maybe to me at least, like in my experience, I didn't know what Bass House was until you were doing it. And,
Neither did I.
And I don't know if that's what Bass House actually was before you started doing it.
I mean, if you
It might have
listen
been
to
something
like
different.
if you listen to like what I was listening to at the time that motivated me to make a sound like that was lots of songs that very much used FM synthesis with low pass filters,
Right.
which was like old AC Slater, Chris Lorenzo, fucking Gorgon City is another one.
Oh wow.
Like, and like a lot of the FM basses, like it was just like they didn't have any attack. That was like really the secret.
Yeah, you're right, because they would have a slower LFO. They would have more like a ramp LFO. They wouldn't have the shark LFO.
I did not invent anything.
You invented the FM bass. You heard it here first. You invented Bass House.
But yeah,
Bass House Daddy.
but that's why I think it's so funny when people say like I started, and I was like,
Yeah.
how can you start something when you're literally looking up YouTube tutorials on how to make it?
Right.
You know, it was just I did it wrong.
Well, I mean, it's just like Skrillex inventing dubstep. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't invent dubstep, but he did create bro step in a certain way.
For sure.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That he took what he learned, which I don't know what he did, because My Name is Skrillex was nowhere near what. It's really weird. I don't know if you ever think
his
about
interpretation of it.
What Sonny did. This is gonna sound a little egotistical, so just
hit it.
hang on.
Love it.
You already got a lot of egotistical
I
comments
know.
in it. Let's get
I
in it.
know.
Let's talk about
this
how
is
rich
not
you are.
This is not a good look for me. What Sonny did is not too dissimilar to what I did, where he just took two kind of polar opposite worlds and put them together, which one of them was his, being in the UK and Europe with Noisia and Caspa and that whole UK dubstep crew, but then also his electro influences like Wolfgang and like that whole scene, because like that's what bro step is it's like a lot of like obviously the tempo and the drum patterns and whatever from and the respaces and shit from that UK Europe world, but a lot of sound design and especially the glitchiness and the complexity of the electro stuff.
Yeah, the melodic stuff. Yeah, you're totally right, especially back then.
Yeah, that's
clean
really
production too.
I think that's a fair analogy to make. Yeah,
especially if you listen to like super early Skrillex, a lot of it was just like electro.
It was,
you know?
I'm actually really curious too, and I can't believe I never thought about this, but I could be wrong, and I would be embarrassed if I am, but you and Johnny have never worked together, have you? You just did the...
Well, it's not even me. I think the only person Johnny's ever made a song with is Skrillex.
Oh my God, I think you're right.
He doesn't collab with people.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah, besides features, right?
That would be insane, though.
Dude, that would be a record.
That's got to happen for the people, but you're like, you would be down.
Of course.
Okay, we just said it here. We're starting.
Yeah, I love Johnny. I go to his studio and right down the street from here all the time. Have you been to that place yet?
I have not. He has.
Yeah.
It's the fucking coolest place ever, dude.
Yeah,
it's like imagine Icon was not a school.
Right, so there's a lot of like young producers there that are doing shit.
And everyone that rents rooms out at that building, it's all 1 degree of separation from Johnny.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all homies.
It's all people he fucks with.
It's all community. And like it's just like when I'm there, it like gives me that Icon feeling.
That's cool.
Of like you can go outside to like the back area and like Johnny and his wife are there hanging out. Like there's like always people around talking music and like having a good time.
That's cool. He's created that whole vibe.
It's a really cool outdoor area.
Yeah.
Like you can play music out there. There's nobody around.
Yeah, it's a
really
vibe.
Cool.
I remember hearing Joyryde for the first time and being like, this guy's got it for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about, but I just knew he was special for sure.
Yeah.
And but that would be so cool to see you guys. I feel like that'd be like a...
You guys are going back to back, right?
DJing?
Are we?
Have you DJ'd back to back?
Yeah, you guys. You guys
have we? Yeah.
Yeah, in the past.
I was like, do you know something I don't? No. Is Johnny about to pop out of the closet right now? We're going to do a back-to-back set.
That would
right
be
now?
so sick.
It would be so sick, especially without my USBs.
Yeah. Be dope,
you got your laptop.
Yeah. Johnny at EDC Orlando a couple years ago, it was like every year I've done EDC Orlando, there's been some bullshit. Like 1 year, it was like one of our best friends' weddings was the day before in Palm Springs.
Ooh.
Oh,
and we drove up to Palm Springs. I got to be at the first 2 hours of their wedding, like just the ceremony, no party, no nothing. Second the ceremony's over, I had to go straight to the Palm Springs airport and fly overnight to make it to EDC Orlando on no sleep. And then the year after that, it was either the year after or before. Maybe it was the year before that, actually, that I had a wedding the day after I played EDC Orlando.
Oh,
so I had to play EDC Orlando and then on no sleep go straight to the... Wait, no. It was the one with the wedding before EDC Orlando because I got no fucking sleep and I was so fucking tired. And I was taking an overnight flight to get back to LA after EDC Orlando.
Oh, God.
And Johnny, before my set, was like, hey, like, I'm doing the after party set, like, in the wherever, like, come through. And I was like
5 in the morning or some shit.
And I was like, I'm like, absolutely not. Like, here's what's happened. I'm going to bed. And as I'm getting off stage, I can't remember who it was, like, just showed me a tweet that Johnny had made that was like, Jauz is coming to go back to back with me at this set at this time. And I was like, I'm going to fucking kill this guy.
Nice.
And so I literally had to go.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hope you know I will never let you live this down.
That's
awesome.
an
You showed up,
amazing
though.
story.
Of course, I love the guy.
What's up, guys? Want to take a quick break from the Jauz episode to tell you about our very first Black Friday special, ONLYBASS. If you are a bass producer in need of some serious inspiration and next-level sound design, this bundle is for you. All presets are drop-ready, including macros and drop rhythms that can be customized for endless possibilities. With over 500 filthy basses, you'll be surprised at how fast you finish. Stop scrolling through washed-up SERUM presets and start making drops hard again. You don't even need to hide this purchase from your boyfriend or girlfriend. Stop gooning and start producing. Trust me, you'll be exploding with new ideas. P.S. There's absolutely no plucks, no pads, just drop-ready basses for your next track. Now let's get you back into the episode.
One thing we both wanted to talk about was just at the time that you were coming up, that you guys created a movement, I feel like, with just you and Moe and Marshmello. And I forgot who else was a part of it at that time, but it was like you
like
guys,
our management team.
yeah, but you guys were doing this thing where you were all doing well and you were all sharing each other's music.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that was the thing. So it was almost like this crazy, and I'm just wondering.
It was like a big like symbiotic family.
Yeah. And you guys created a huge fucking space for yourself and catapulted all of you guys to like major success. And I'm just wondering what that was like at the very beginning, as far as like how it happened, you know, because Mo's a big part of your story, I think, too.
Yeah.
And obviously with, you know, with Marshmello too, and just being a part of that whole crew. Can you tell us about just like how that whole thing happened and what it was like during that time?
I don't really think I like thought about any of it too much.
While it was happening?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't realize it, like what was happening was so big.
Like that was all of that is really Moe, you know? Like, and it all really just kind of came off the back of like what he and I kind of learned like trial by fire together. Because when I first started working with Moe, his other like main artist at the time was Kennedy Jones,
right?
Who, you know, Suavemente,
Yeah,
huge trap record back in the day, and that was through Bygor.
right. That's right. Moe was with Bygor. I remember that.
Yeah,
because that's around the time I was hanging out with.
yeah,
yeah.
And you know, like, and I don't say this in a negative way to Asaf or Bygor or any of that, but like it was pretty bootstrap.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It was.
Like it was just kind of by like the skin of our teeth. Like we figured it out, and so it was like we had to use every available opportunity that we had to make shit happen. And like the way that we blew Feel the Volume up was that, also I'll just put this on record because I literally talked to Joanne about this last night. She said something about like, I can't remember what we were talking about, but she was like, have you talked to Moe about this? Like, what does he think? And I was like, well, if I did everything based on the way that Moe thought, I would have never put out Feel the Volume. So what does that tell you? Because I sent him Feel the Volume. I was like, this record's going to be big. And he was like, I don't really like it.
Dude.
But because of that, he was just like, yeah, this record is kind of whatever.
Right.
I was like, all right, like, let's just put it on SoundCloud and see what happens. Because, like, what's the worst that'll happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we put it out on SoundCloud, and it started, like, you know, doing well. Got, like, 100,000 plays or whatever the, like, big deal metric was in a certain amount of days. But what really changed things is that Moe leveraged having Kennedy Jones as an artist, because Kennedy was in this email thread that all the biggest DJs were in.
Super Thread?
The Super Thread.
Oh, yeah. The legendary Super Thread.
Yeah. So Kennedy was a part of the Super Thread. And so Moe was like, oh, I could just put Sam's song right here, and every DJ on the circuit will be able to at least have it in their email. It doesn't mean they're going to listen to it or not. So he just kind of like, you know, hijacked Kennedy's email, put my song in there. It ended up being like a problem with the guy that ran the Super Thread.
You can't just be posting people's shit. They
No.
were really, if they found out you weren't supposed to be there, you were fucking out.
Yeah, no, he literally sent Moe an email that was like, I'm going to fucking kick you guys out of this if you do that shit again. But because Moe did that, that's how all of these DJs from fucking like Zed to Swedish House.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know who all got it from the super thread, but like that was where it began and then proliferated from there, and DJs would hear it in other DJs sets
Right.
and like
Let me get that song.
yeah, and that's what the snowball effect was. It wasn't SoundCloud, it was Moe leveraging what he had at his fingertips to try to make something happen.
And he didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that in the super
No,
thread.
fuck no.
But what's funny is that is exactly what you were supposed to be doing in the super thread. It just so happened that the song that you posted was actually really good, and DJs wanted to play it. So it'd be funny if that person who ran it was like, oh, well, I guess I was wrong about this one. You know
well,
what
he
I mean?
ended up working for us for a while.
There you go.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I still talk to him all the time.
Shout out to that guy, though, because that
His
super
name
thread
his
was
name
like,
is Nappy.
Nappy. That was
Yeah.
a
The
legendary
moderator.
email back then. If you could get on the super thread, because that's what we would all try to do, is like if we could just get our music played by DJs, because that's how you did it back then. It doesn't really work like that really anymore.
No,
as much.
no.
It still does, but ISO and knock. But so Moe gets your song out on the super thread.
So my point of telling that whole story is that really just became kind of the framework for
oh, this is how we get a song to blow.
No, not that
Okay, I'm
specifically, but like I'm going to use Kennedy's, whatever he has because he's, at this point and Sam is here.
Right.
Let's use something from Kennedy to help propel Sam up a little bit higher. It's not like Andy is Kennedy Jones' real name. It's not like Andy is like holding my hand the whole time,
Yeah.
but like he gave me, a little bit of something because of something that he had done
Right.
to give me an extra boost. So then when I was really popping and like, all the shit was going on and the Marshmello project was about to start, Moe leveraged my SoundCloud and
Right.
all the followers and listeners that I had. And the first 5 songs that they put out for Marshmello all got reposted on the Jauz SoundCloud. And, there was this very symbiotic thing there that got the Marshmello brand a lot of eyeballs right at the beginning.
So just like Kennedy was for you, you were for
Yeah,
Marshmello.
yeah. And it was like, that was also when I was really close with Sonny. And, Moe leveraged that to get Marshmello in front of Sonny. And, Sonny was going through something in the moment where like that music really spoke to him. And that's how that relationship kind of developed. And like, I don't really like talking about this stuff because it almost makes it sound like I'm the reason that Marshmello is so successful, which I'm fucking not.
Yeah.
Let's
I
make
don't
that
think
100%
anybody-
clear.
Yeah.
Because that is that mentality that like a lot of artists at a certain level and a certain amount of time in music will have is like, I did this, I did that.
Yeah.
Like people aren't giving me the attention I deserve or whatever. And like, I did this for this, but like, I don't fucking care. Like
Right.
Marshmello is a $100 million act because of Marshmello and because of Moe
Right.
and because of what they did.
Yeah.
Whether I was there or not is completely inconsequential.
Yeah.
That would have happened regardless.
Yeah. That was the model that you guys created, and you used the tools,
but,
and it worked.
And then, because Marshmello then became this larger-than-life thing, then the Marshmello platform was leveraged to help me out,
Right.
to help out Slushy, to help out OK, to help out Ghastly, and it was just this whole like symbiotic ecosystem of like, everyone helps out everyone so that we can all like, because all the artists, like no one was really competing.
Right.
For the same thing. Like my sound was different than Marshmello, was different than
Yeah.
Ghastly, was different than OK, was different than Slushy. Like we it wasn't like we all had this same kind of like whatever where like if one of us did well, the others had to suffer.
Right.
Something I really appreciate from you, Sam, is that you're very like self-aware and you're very
Yeah.
conscious about your life and what you want to do and your reality. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like a lot of DJs don't have that, or they don't know what's in front of them. Essentially, you know what I'm saying? Like you,
I think
does that happen with kids? Or
It probably takes
no,
time. I'm sure.
no,
I feel like,
I
you
feel
know?
like I've always kind of had that honest or I had to develop it.
Yeah.
Cuz like I don't know, to me the number one barrier to success, and I feel like this is probably able to be said about every aspect of like any career, but especially in music, is being like self-aware and kind of being a realist while also having that kind of level of insanity and delusion, But it's like when I started out and like you have that mentality of like, I'm fucking sick. And the only reason that I'm not popping right now is because this man, the man is holding me back, or, you know, the fucking connections or this or that or whatever. Like the second you're able to drop that, and I got told no enough times that I was like, okay, like if this was a scientific experiment, the only variable in here is me, right? Like the constant is the no,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And every experiment that I run, like the only thing that could change is me, right? And I was like, okay, so it must be me. And
That's hard.
but it's the best thing that ever
No, it's
happened.
true. No, it's total. It's true.
I think
that's
that's
a
gonna
hard thing for people to do.
Yeah, that's going to change a lot of producers' worlds. Just watching,
Mindset.
Dude,
watching that, dude.
Bro, I say this shit all the time to so many people and so many podcasts, so many videos, so many interviews, whatever. You have to, in my opinion, you have to go through it. You can't hear me say this shit. And
You're totally right.
maybe some
you're
kids
totally right.
maybe some kids will, and they'll like fake themselves into it.
Yeah.
But most kids will probably hear this and be like, "Oh, that's a cool thought," and then do exactly the same thing I did, because like you have to feel it.
You don't get it unless you've gone through it. It's
Yeah.
like this
It's
weird.
the nose.
It's
You're
either
right.
Yeah.
you don't know this, like you know this shit, but you don't really know this shit until you get to a place of,
Yeah.
oh, I'm getting. You don't have to have a ton of success, but you've had some success in the point to where people are fucking with what you're doing outside of people.
So I get the question a lot, like, how did you know, like, when you were ready? And I was like, I don't think you ever really do know, but a pretty good, like
Indicator.
to me, I think, is when you stop thinking that your music is sick and you start thinking that it kind of sucks. Does that make sense?
It kind of does.
Because then you're finally starting to notice what the music that is working, the music that's made professionally, why that sounds different and better than what you're doing. And you're able to really critically analyze, like, okay, like this song sounds like this, my song sounds like this. Like, not necessarily about like, oh, well, this genre is popping off and mine isn't. But like, you know, like this is how their drums hit and mine don't hit like this. Like my master, like my mix and master isn't very good. Like, you know, the energy of my record isn't this, or like the songwriting isn't quite there. And like you're really able to kind of like pick apart what's holding you back.
Yeah.
To me, that's at least when you have the ability to really start moving in the right direction, you know?
Yeah.
Because for a long time, when you're learning how to make music, you're like, dude, I fucking made something out of nothing. This is sick.
It took me a year to finish this song. This song's gonna break.
Yeah.
This is gonna be the one.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so hard.
And like for me, the way that I went through this was both kind of the worst way and the best way, because one of the first songs I ever made on Ableton, ever, almost won a remix contest.
Oh, you fucked yourself.
And got me in touch with
poor
with
boy.
one of my favorite producers at the moment, which was Adventure Club.
Wow.
It was like I did this remix contest for a band that ended up being Wookiee.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Like he was in that band before he became Wookiee, and I think I got second or third place in the remix contest. And you know, forums for music producers were still popping back then. And I posted the remix on the forum just as kind of like a, hey guys, I made this, like, let me know what you think, whatever. And this dude was like, hey, I think this is really cool. I think Adventure Club would like this. I know them. Do you want me to send it to them? And I was like, oh my God, I love Adventure Club.
Yeah.
Please send it to them. Leighton from Adventure Club reached out to me and was like, or maybe it wasn't even Leighton. I think it was like some dude from their record label or something. But he was like, hey, this is so-and-so from whatever. Like, I work with Adventure Club. They loved the remix that you did. Like, you know, send us more music. And I was like, holy fuck, I made it.
First try.
Yeah, first try. And then I sent record after record after record after record. And they were like, no, this isn't really it. This isn't really it. And then they just stopped responding for a long time.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that sucks. Like, it was right in front of my face, and now it's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And what did I do? What did I do wrong? And then I had like a couple more experiences like that over a period of like a year or two.
You almost get it?
No, not even an almost, just like a straight up no.
Oh.
Or like a no response or whatever. And then I was like, you know what? My music just must not be good enough, right? And the second that happened is like really when it like started to like click, you know? And it was still another probably 4 years until the Jauz project even got started. But that was when everything went in the right direction, you know?
Right.
Once I was able to like take accountability and not just like blame my lack of success on someone other than myself.
Yeah.
Saying accountability is like super important. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if something wrong goes with Excellent Sound, it's like it's one of our faults.
Yeah, we fucking
You know,
struggle with
no
that
matter
sometimes.
what.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that's a huge step in like leadership and even as an artist. You know, if something goes wrong with the Jauz brand or something, it's ultimately your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it was somebody else that made a mistake,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
hired that person.
And I know what you're talking about, Danny, and what I'm talking about is not that the bulk of, you know, the making of the music part has to fall on me. Like, and that's something I learned at Icon is like, they tell you very early on, like, no one works alone. Like, working with you guys on the last 2 albums, working with other people, like even, you know, at Icon, like,
Yeah.
you know, like no song that I've ever made has been ever 100% me.
Yeah.
Ever. It's, you know, either you send it to someone and they give you feedback
Right.
on what to do, or you're in the studio and your homie comes by and gives you like some, like moves some shit around, whatever it is. Like, you know, that's not what I mean. What I mean is like, you know, if like a lot of people, like, you know, a lot of artists that I've looked up to or I've watched their careers, you know, especially from either before I was doing this or early in my career, there's kind of this pattern of like, you know, things start to maybe not go their way. And all of a sudden, everyone around them starts to be the blame. They drop their managers, they drop their
I see.
agents,
Yeah.
you know, this, and this. Everyone starts, you know, falling like a house of cards because it's all those people's fault.
I see.
It's not the artist's fault.
Right.
It's everyone else that's taking advantage of them and not pointing them in the right direction and not doing this and not doing that. If your music fucking sucks, you could have the best agent in the world. You could have the best manager in the world.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to do dick for you. You know? It doesn't fucking matter. You could fire them and hire them all day long, but if you don't have a product that people give a fuck about, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
You know? Like, the analogy I use is like your manager and your agent and publicist or whoever the fuck else, they are the guns, and you give them the ammunition. You give them the product that they move, right?
Right.
And it is entirely determined on how good your product is that you are delivering them for them to be able to do their jobs,
Yeah.
right?
True.
It's that simple.
Yeah. If you
So-
give it to them on time, all that shit matters too. Getting
Yeah.
shit done.
Yeah,
And
for
these-
sure. But
these-
like, you know, at the end of the day, at the very base level, if things aren't going the way you want, the first person that you should be looking at is yourself. And if you truly are doing everything in your power and you're making the best music possible and you genuinely think that you are God's greatest gift to earth, then start looking outward. But like until you are fully, you know, fleshed out and look yourself in the mirror for real, you won't be able to go do anything.
Yeah. It's a good point. Sam, thank you so much for coming, buddy. You're the man. We love you. We're going to jump into some, I'll probably do a separate video, but stay tuned. We're going to jump into some production stuff where Sam's going to teach us how to be better producers.
Oh
Gonna
boy.
teach us how to mix and master.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming, dude. Thank you,
you, dude.
Jauz. Thank you, people. Go check him out on make sure you go check out his SoundCloud, his Spotify,
7-minute
Twitch.
mix.
Yes.
Yeah, go listen to the 7-minute version of Feel the Volume.
It's
Was
up
that
there.
the first upload too?
No, like that's the version on Beatport and shit.
That's so wild.
Like the video, subscribe, comment. We're out.